2016 election showed us that there were great divides in the Republican and Democratic base. For Democrats, the primary was the ultimate defeat for them in the election, as the progressive base had felt cheated out of their candidate, making many sit out of the election and costing valuable votes for the Clinton campaign needed in states that ultimately went to Trump due to low voter turnout. Since that defeat, the left wing in America has been in shambles, leading to much infighting on how to move forward, slowly seeming to eat itself alive. The Bernie wing or progressive base of the party since the election had been trying to figure out the best way to proceed further, and two paths seemed to be the best way, either a takeover of the Democratic Party or pushing for a third party. I myself was swayed by a takeover of the party, and the Justice Democrats seemed like the best bet for a change many of us supporters of Senator Sanders were looking for. However, after this week, I do find that Justice Democrats as an organization has shown its true colors and does not represent me or the progressive base that still stands for freedom of expression and thought and moving away from identity politics that has ruined the Democratic Party over the last decade. After the 2016 election, I, like many, were shocked that Clinton lost, but looking back on it, I'm not really surprised at this collapse of the left. Many of us began to reevaluate our positions. The term red pill came out, as many went from the liberal side to the conservative side. At first, I kind of thought that way, but when you really analyze what the conservative base stands for and what they are pushing, especially when you look at Congress, the arguments to me just didn't hold up. The only thing in the end I found myself agreeing with from many of these right-wing commentators on YouTube was their anti-SJW rhetoric. But when it came to everything else, especially economics, I still felt the progressive base had won me over. So I felt that pushing a progressive agenda was the best thing still, and that Justice Democrats was the way to go. But I do not think they deserved that support any longer, especially when they make me have to defend Cenk Uygur. Many of you have probably heard of Cenk. He is involved with Justice Democrats, so I won't go into too much detail, as most likely you've heard about him and his resignation from the Justice Democrats after an 18-year-old blog post where he did make some very sexist comments and remarks. Before I talk about this situation and my thoughts on Justice Democrats, I do want to clarify though, I am not a fan of TYT or Cenk. I used to be a viewer, but like many who ended up leaving and not watching TYT anymore, identity politics and their hard stances on far-left social ideology that is typically associated with the SJW movement pushed me away from their network. However, that wasn't the big reason I didn't like Cenk's involvement in Justice Democrats, though it was part of it for me. To me, I saw it as a conflict of interest to a group fighting to get corporate money and influence out of politics in favor of the will of the people, yet it was founded by somebody who owned a pretty sizable media group. TYT loves to tout that they are different than corporate media and how it works with political organizations, but was it really that different from MSNBC propping up the Democratic establishment or Fox with the Republican? As much as I agreed with Justice Democrat stances, I just couldn't help but be turned away because of that relationship and how similar it was to these. The moment I really began to question Cenk's involvement with Justice Democrats was his debate against Ben Shapiro at Politicon in 2017. While I don't like Shapiro, I did feel he performed much better in this debate, and this moment had me really convinced that Cenk would cause problems for the movement and message of Justice Democrats.
Well, I mean, when it comes to money in politics, I think that breakdown doesn't really hold. I mean, the fact is that President Trump, during the campaign, talked routinely about how he engaged in putting money into politics. So, I mean, this is a game that a lot of people are playing. It's kind of a weird question. But as far as the idea that all money should be out of politics, here is the problem. Okay, TYT, we both have corporations, and we expound upon politics every single day. And we motivate thousands of people, right, every day, on both sides of the aisle. That is effectively an in-kind contribution. Now, you campaigned with Bernie Sanders. Did you do it because you expected? That's fine. Did you do that because you supported Bernie Sanders, or did you do that because you expected some gimme for TYT in return? I assume you did it because you supported Bernie Sanders, right?
Yes.
So, okay. So, the point that I am making is to attribute to everyone else bad intent when it comes to political spending in politics, but to yourself, it's totally fine. And when it comes to other media entities that give in-kind contributions on a regular basis through their coverage, this is when the New York Times, which is biased to the left, spends an inordinate amount of time and money reporting on Mitt Romney's idiotic stories about how he was in high school and cutting a gay kid's hair in 1932. If you're saying to me that that is less impactful on the political sphere than a corporation, which is a group giving money to a political candidate for purposes of supporting that candidate, I fail to see how you can say for yourself that you are innocent in this, but everyone else is guilty. I don't believe that. Either everyone's guilty or everybody is innocent, or if you can find the actual cases of guilt where there's a quid pro quo, then we agree. That's prosecutable.
For all these reasons, one of the biggest points from those on the left that didn't like Justice Democrats was the fact of TYT and Cenk's involvement. So you would think that removing him would solve all those problems? Well, no, it was far from it. Whoever is the social media manager for Justice Democrats really fucked on their messaging here. I can understand the need maybe for having Cenk step down as a prominent figure within Justice Democrats, but when the statements are from so long ago, really? I mean, don't get me wrong, part of me enjoyed him getting taken down when he often argues for SJW shit, but are we really just gonna ignore it being used to take out somebody we don't like, or are we gonna address it? And I feel the need to address it. He wasn't and hadn't been defending these statements that took him down for a while now, yet they're still treating it like he is currently a sexist monster that needs to be taken down. I mean, is it 100% impossible to change an opinion or belief? I doubt there is one human on this planet that has the same beliefs and opinions since they were born. The human experience is all about learning and changing, and one of my favorite Doctor Who quotes pretty much sums up that very concept.
We all change. When you think about it, we are all different people all through our lives, and that's okay, that's good. You've got to keep moving so long as you remember all the people that you used to be.
But that doesn't matter with Justice Democrats or this part of the left. To them, you are the same and you can't make up for any past mistakes. You can't change your beliefs and you can't change your opinions. Once you hold something, especially that they disagree with, they can use that against you forever and it makes you a monster. And they have reinforced this side in the way they marketed the messaging on how they took out Cenk Uygur from his position. And it doesn't look good when in their messaging, it makes it sound like they're standing up against the patriarchy by doing this. And using the word patriarchy definitely wasn't a way to get those on their side that are very much against the SJW movement, whether they're anti-SJW or not. The right-wing and anti-SJW crowd out there has been pointing out for a while now that Justice Democrats just seems to be a continuation of part of the SJW problem. And for a while there, I tried to argue against it, but it's really hard to do that with something like this. And especially if you go back and look at their media history, they are constantly retweeting people like Linda Sarsour and other common SJW talking points all over the place. It does make it really hard to argue against that. And it doesn't bode well for winning over people who are against that messaging. This event has led Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk as well to step down, and I really don't blame him. For those tired of identity politics that consumed and destroyed the left the last election, it doesn't seem like Justice Democrats is going to be any different. And yet again, as the SJW movement killed the atheist community on YouTube and led to the wonders like Atheism Plus, it seems like they've just also hit Justice Democrats as well. Now, I don't want this video to come across as saying I don't support any of the candidates that Justice Democrats are supporting as well. Our world isn't black and white like the extremes on both sides want you to think, and I wholeheartedly agree with Kyle's message here.
It's beyond crucial that each and every one of us still support the candidates, because the candidates had nothing to do with any of this. Every single one of the candidates has my support. They all still support Medicare for all and free college and a living wage and ending the wars and a New Deal and getting money out of politics. And they weren't even involved in this drama or the fallout or the very quick decision making. So I want everybody to know that I'm not just saying that. That even though I'm resigning from Justice Democrats, each and every candidate still deserves our support, still deserves our donations, still deserves our time to actually put in work at the grassroots level and to fight for them to get elected so that we can get our vision implemented.
So for me, I haven't given any money to the Justice Democrats, and I won't be in the future, and nor would I recommend anyone else would. But I don't want to write off all their candidates. Instead, I think that a much more rational position to take is to take a look at each candidate themselves and what they stand for and make your judgments after that. And support those candidates themselves with your money should you seem fit to. Otherwise, for me, a third-party option looks even better now under the current circumstances. Justice Democrats may still go on and be successful, but it just doesn't look good when they turn away the TYT fan base, whether you love or hate the network. Most of their fans did support Justice Democrats, and this is just going to make a greater divide in the progressive movement. They've also turned off that crowd that I don't want to label as anti-SJWs, as I've already pointed out some people in the anti-SJW community that I do have problems with. But those who are against the identity politics games the left has gone crazy for recently, those people have been really turned away after seeing this. If you can be sure of anything right now, the left in America is nowhere near united still. And this recent event doesn't bode well for any progressive movement in America in the next election, at least under Justice Democrats.